Hey everybody, God, finally finally I have some disk space and time to actually do this video. It's the first video of 2020. First up, a little disclaimer: if you're under 13, do not watch my videos because my videos and my channel are not made for kids. Because I usually talk about real-world steam locomotives, and I doubt that small children will find them very interesting. And well, there's also plenty of kid unfriendly humor in my videos. Do you understand that? Okay, now get the fuck out of here if you're under 13. Besides, I'm very worried about giving a terrible example to young children. Anyway, if you're a fan of the Union Pacific, you may have already heard the news. Sadly, it's about the 3985, as I have basically what would have been the whole UP steam fleet of the 21st century here, but no. The 3985 is sadly retired, and it's with good news. Now, when I first heard the news on the 2nd of January, I was heartbroken. But yeah, it was a comment from Ed Dickens himself. He posted it in some Facebook group. I don't know which one, but I'm pretty sure it was the official Union Pacific Steam Club, even though I'm banned from there, so yeah. But I've seen screenshots of his comment, and yeah, I'm very heartbroken that the 3985 is retired, but I understand why it's retired. I'm not one of those sad little foamers who has to pester and to please restore the 3985. No, I'm not that kind of person. I understand why he retired the poor thing. Basically, our favorite Challenger is in a very rundown state. And it's all because, unfortunately, when it was initially refurbished between 1979 and 1981 by the previous Union Pacific Steam Team, sadly, they didn't do a complete job of it. It wasn't so much a case of giving the locomotive a full restoration to get it basically back to factory fresh condition, but it was more so a case of just giving it some repairs to get it running again. And it was a decision that for the next 3 decades would haunt the locomotive. It last operated in October of 2010, as I fell down this little ramp. But yeah, sadly, it hasn't operated since, and well, sadly that's because the locomotive isn't safe to operate anymore. Because 3 decades of hard running, lots of excursion passenger trains, a few seriously heavy freight trains, and well, a lot of little band-aid fixes, it basically crippled the Challenger. They have taken its toll, and now there's a mountain of mechanical problems that need to be solved, and obviously that's going to take a lot of time and money to get in order. But some of the problems include a worn front engine. I think it's the running gear that's more so worn out. I don't think that the frame itself is worn out, but I could be wrong. Besides, I have heard that the front set of driving wheels hasn't been removed from the 3985 since its last major overhaul at some point in the 1950s. So yeah, the front engine has basically remained attached to the Challenger since the Cold War. Ouch. Other problems include rust near the blast pipe or exhaust nozzle, but that should basically be the same thing, you know. Another problem is a rusted feed water heater. It has basically rusted beyond the point of salvaging. Granted, it's not here on my GMod model because this is more so just a little bit of a simplified take on the Challenger. But basically, my GMod models are more so supposed to be simplified takes on these engines. But yeah, there would have been a feed water heater here near the left front cylinder. It should be there in the real thing too. But, well, it used to be there. But unfortunately, it's rusted through because it wasn't stored properly, and I think it may be even scrapped. So yes, it needs a new feed water heater as well. Another problem includes damaged piston rings. I don't know if it's on both sets of cylinders, but yeah, damaged piston rings nonetheless. Obviously, the tender from the 3985 has been removed, and it's now sitting behind the 4014 because the 4014 tender still has an open fuel bunker, so the fuel bunker on that is still an open hopper for coal, as opposed to an enclosed tank for oil, because obviously when Union Pacific refurbished the 4014, they had no intention ever to keep it as a coal-fired machine. They were going to convert it to burn oil anyway. And by the way, Ross Rowland made actually made quite an unnecessary stab at the UP Steam team, saying that a real steam locomotive burns coal. Bullshit. Steam locomotives can burn oil perfectly fine as well. Granted, the Reading 2100 is a bad example, or rather a good example of how not to do it, but yeah, they can burn oil just as well. But the main problem with the 3985 is that sadly the crown sheet, which is like the ceiling of the inner firebox, has warped. So I think that the entire inner firebox needs to be replaced. Basically, in terms of how much money you would be spending on the 3985 for a full restoration, I've heard the number can go as high as $7 to $8 million. Not cheap at all. Even if it's just chump change compared to Union Pacific standards, who make like several $billion a year. $8 million is still a lot of money, and well, it's still going to take a lot of time and manpower to get the 3985 running again. And unfortunately, it's just not in Union Pacific's cards at the moment. That's something that has to be, a lot of people have to be reminded of. In fact, the 3985 was in such poor mechanical condition that the 4014 here, the big boy that they got from the Rail Giants Museum in Pomona, California, was actually in better condition. And keep in mind, this big boy had been sitting out in the open air for half a century. Though granted, it was in Pomona, California, where the weather is very dry, so it got very little to no rust on compared to other locomotives sitting outside. But still, basically, refurbishing the 4014 was actually cheaper than refurbishing the 3985. Just goes to show you that if you don't give the locomotive a good initial mechanical refurbishment, it can go very wrong. And unfortunately, that is the case with the 3985. 3 decades of very hard running, lots of excursion passenger trains, a few seriously heavy freight trains, and sometimes reaching speeds as high as 75 miles an hour. That has all definitely taken its toll on the poor boy. And keep in mind that throughout the 2010s, it was a little bit of a dark age for Union Pacific Steam, because in the early years, or like the early to mid 2010s, we had nothing. The 844 was going through a refurbishment, the 4014 was going through a refurbishment, and it seemed like the 3985 was going through a 1472 boiler inspection, at least for the time being, before they put it on the back burner. So yeah, be thankful that we have the 844 and the 4014 now. Everybody's favorite elephant-eared Northern is doing well. The mighty Big Boy has triumphantly returned to steam last year. But the Jobblemon Challenger, Big Boy's little brother, for now, it just sleeps in the roundhouse, waiting until the time is right for it to get a full-on mechanical refurbishment. I don't know when that refurbishment will happen. Maybe it's going to be for the next generation of the Steam team, whenever that may happen. But basically, my initial statement saying, "Oh, wait at least 5 years." Yeah, that is too soon, sadly. And 5 years could be seen as quite a long time period. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, for now, either of these two potential fates are the most realistic for the 3985. The one more so. The most realistic is this, and that is the possibility that it will remain in storage in the roundhouse of Cheyenne, Wyoming, until the time is right for it to be fully rebuilt. The second option, which is a little less, apologies, jump cut, I went through my Bandicam recording time. But as I wanted to say, the second option, which is a little less realistic, is that the 3985 may be donated to a railroad museum for public display. Surely you would need, of course, you need to find a railroad museum that's actually large enough to handle a Challenger, because keep in mind, Challengers, in real life, from the tip of the cowcatcher all the way to the rear coupler on the tender, which on my models, which on these GMod models isn't there, they're 122 feet long, just about. So, naturally, you would need a very large museum. Also quite a roomy museum because they're also pretty tall and well pretty wide. But if you're talking about fate number 3, which is getting cut up for scrap, that's just no, that's not going to happen. Sure, a lot of people are already joking about it. It's going to get scrapped, and a lot of people are losing their friggin' head over that. But yeah, rest assured, I'm very confident that the 3985 will not get scrapped. I'm pretty sure that Union Pacific has definitely seen the historical significance of this engine, so yeah, there's no way that they're going to cut it up. Especially when you realize that it's one of only 2 preserved Challenger locomotives. The other one obviously being the 3977 in Cody Park in North Platte, Nebraska. But yeah, basically, for now, in storage in Cheyenne is the most realistic fate. Public display, a little less likely, though maybe it could happen. Though I kind of hope that it won't happen because it would be kind of cool to see the 3985 get refurbished anyway. But if it does go on public display, so be it. So yeah. For now, the future is definitely a little bit bleak for the mighty Challenger. And that's well, that's basically all I have to say about that. So sorry if this video was a bit boring and a bit long. Sorry if I haven't been running these engines. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end this video now. And we'll see you at the next video, whatever that may be. And yeah, life is busy now that obviously with my job and all. And well, remember, we also have 2 little English Bulldog puppies that need to be taken care of. So, yeah. I'll see you when I have the chance. Goodbye.